I don't know. Yeah, yeah, there it is. Okay. All right. So, can you guys see me there? Okay, good. So this is the health talk that's leading up to the accumulated stress talk. I want to start talking first about applied kinesiology. By the way, I'm Dr. Jim Hogue, those who don't know me. One of the great things about applied kinesiology, lets us treat things that can't be treated other ways, is we look at what we call the triad of the triangle of health. So the bottom is structure, one side is chemical, the other side is mental. And everything in the body, every kind of problem that comes into our office may have structural, chemical, or emotional, mental aspects to it. So someone comes in, as I said, I was trained as a chiropractor originally. A lot of people come to us with structural problems, with back pain, neck pain, shoulder problems, carpal tunnel syndrome, that sort of thing. But those structural problems could have chemical aspects to them. For instance, in applied kinesiology, we look at muscle testing. We're looking for muscles that are turned off, just like turning a light switch off. And trying to exercise those muscles or do physical therapy for those muscles when they're turned off is like trying to replace a light bulb right now. Not going to be too effective because it's turned off. So our job in applied kinesiology is to look at the structural, chemical, and mental aspects of a problem that are turning those muscles off. So structural problems are often caused by lack of muscle support. But that lack of muscle support can be caused by chemical problems. Let's just take a look at the next slide here with structural. So structural problems, go back, please, back. There we go. So, not that far. Got the comedy control here. Structural problems include, bone alignment adjusting. As I said, we were originally trained as chiropractors. And you've got an opening at the base of your skull about that big, through which most of the nerves in your body go. And they go up through that opening at the base of your skull, through the spine to all different parts of your body. All your muscles, all your organs have nerve supply there. And that's your body's communication system. And in order for your body to work right, those lines of communication have to be kept open and clear. So if that communication gets blocked or it gets garbled, even worse, then what happens is messages coming from your kidney don't go up to your brain the right way, and your brain doesn't know that you need to have more circulation for your kidney, for instance, or maybe the message to your kidney from the brain is garbled, and so you have improper kidney function or heart function or liver function, that sort of thing. People think chiropractors are bone doctors and they're pain doctors. Chiropractors are actually nerve doctors. And we have been improving nerve conduction and communication. We're kind of communication experts, especially in applied kinesiology, we're communication experts. We've been improving communication since into the 19th century. And the way we do that is by making sure that the bones of the spine are properly aligned so there's no nerve interference. And we also adjust the extremities, the wrist, elbow, ankle, knee, foot. Bones can get out of place and things don't work right. You have pain, things like that. Now, something we do in applied kinesiology that's different, that most chiropractors don't do, is work with the cranial nerves. There are 12 nerves that don't go down through the spine. They go directly from the brain out to different parts of the body. A lot of them have to do with sensory apparatus, the eyes, the ears, sense of smell. There's one, especially called the vagus nerve, cranial nerve 10, that goes from the brain to pretty much every organ in your body. It's a major, major important nerve, the major parasympathetic nerve in the body. And if that nerve isn't functioning properly, you've got digestive problems, you can have heart problems, you can have lung problems, liver problems, you name it. The 10th cranial nerve probably goes there. And we do cranial adjusting to help keep those nerve pathways free. And that's actually, I mentioned I'm a member of the International College of Applied Kinesiology, and what we do in the International College of Applied Kinesiology is we It's devoted to education. I'm a teacher. I teach other doctors because I only treat so many people with these hands. But also it's devoted to research, and I've contributed many research papers myself. I'm about to present one into July on a new way of using photobiomodulation or light therapy to improve vagus nerve function. So I'm not going to get off on that too much because I can really get off on that. So the other thing, structural, muscle balance. Muscles hold the bones in place. It's great to put them in place. What's going to hold them there, though? The muscles hold them there. And if the muscles aren't working right, that adjustment only lasts until you get off the table and start walking around. And that's where we have our specialty, is with muscle balance. Over or underfiring muscles will cause problems. So we can have muscles that are spasming, or more commonly, muscles that are turned off and not holding things together where they should. We also work with postural balance on that structural side of things. So the chemical side includes nutrition, digestion, absorption of nutrients, because nutrition is great, but are you digesting it? And it's no good unless you're digesting it. If you're digesting it, it's still no good unless you're absorbing it properly. So we have ways of checking to see, are you getting proper nutrition? Are you digesting it properly? Are you absorbing it properly? And also we have to look at elimination and detoxification. Make sure those pathways that clear out the garbage are working properly. Otherwise, it builds up in your system. It causes fatigue, aches and pains, and accelerated aging and stress. Look at hormone balance. That's part of the chemical side of things. We have great ways. We're going to talk a little bit today about some things we do to check hormone balance. Neurotransmitter production and function. These neurotransmitters are like brain chemicals, like serotonin, which is a big mood elevating thing, dopamine, which is mood elevating and important for concentration, and GABA, which is an anti-anxiety neurotransmitter, those sorts of things. We have ways of checking for those and helping the body see if you're making enough of those and helping you to make better. See, we don't give you the hormones, we don't give you the neurotransmitters. We look to see, we don't give that as an oral or injection. What we do is see, are you making these properly, and if not, why not, and what can we do to help your body make its own chemicals properly. pH, acid alkaline balance, and allergies are a big part of the chemical side of the triangle, and a big stressor, in fact. We'll talk about those later, a little bit later. The next emotional side includes emotional stressors. We have a great technique called the neuro-emotional technique to help clear out emotional baggage from the past. A lot of us are, in fact, all of us are probably dealing with emotional traumas that have happened to us when we were younger, and we kind of got past them, we resolved them, but they're still kind of there. We're still kind of reacting to them. You know, you ever hear the story of Pavlov and the dog, you know, where they had the dog that rang a bell and showed the dog food, and they rang the bell and showed the dog a steak, and rang the bell. Eventually the dog became being programmed to associate the bell with the steak, and the dog would actually salivate when they heard the bell. Humans are much easier to program, and we can become programmed to react to things that happened to us when we were stressed, when we were traumatized. You know, someone wearing the same perfume, someone use the same phrase, someone with the same expression on their face will help make us start reliving the emotion. We don't remember that we're doing that. We just start feeling that way for some reason. So we end up in situations where we're not reacting appropriately to the situation. You might think, well, why am I reacting like this? This really isn't that bad. Or why is they reacting like that? This isn't that big a deal. But it's because we're also reliving those old things, those stressors that keep building up. And we have a great technique for clearing those out. Learning problems, also part of the mental emotional side of the triangle. Memory issues, reading problems, and then also meridian acupuncture treatment. Now, a lot of these things, like the memory problems, learning problems, also have chemical sides to them. So there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of overlap. So it isn't just we treat just a structural problem, we treat just a chemical problem, we treat just the mental or electromagnetic problems. We have to look at what structural things can be affecting the chemical side of the triangle. What chemical things can be affecting the structural side. For instance, there's a muscle that's very important for low back support. Could have been part of the problem of that guy that tied his shoe and everything went out on him. And we find that the body will react to stress on organs. And there's a specific muscle that reacts to stress on the kidney called the psoas muscle, which is an important low back support muscle. And if that person is dehydrated, which is very common, not drinking enough water, then the psoas muscle will stop functioning properly, and the low back doesn't get support. So you have what looks like a structural problem caused by a chemical cause. And of course, organ function, as I just talked about earlier, is very commonly caused by structural problems. If there's some nerve interference, there's a problem with the vagus nerve because of cranial faults, you're going to have organ issues. You're going to have aberrant body chemistry. We can have mental problems caused by chemical problems. You ever have low blood sugar and feel like I can't think straight, or I'm really cranky, or have hormonal imbalances and premenstrual type stuff, and you've been really like that, and you're kind of cranky because and depressed maybe because of the hormonal imbalances. So these all kind of go together. It's important to, no matter what people come in with, we kind of put them in the middle of this triangle and say, okay, what are the three sides of the triangle? How are they affecting this particular patient? Even though it seems like a structural problem or it seems like mostly a chemical problem, you look at all the sides of the triangle and how they interrelate. Okay, so now that's kind of the basics and applied kinesiology, very basic. What I want to do today, we have the special topic that people were very interested in, and that's why I'm doing this video. It's our stress health talk. We tried doing it 2 months ago, and the weather didn't cooperate then. And I'm really happy to see you guys here today with all the rain we're having, because I said, Griffin said, we're going to do this because heck with the weather. So by the way, you got some nice things in your handout here. You've got these stress talk health notes. We've got information on breathing your stress away. It's a yoga technique for de-stressing yourself with breathing. We've got just some nice things about me, because it is my favorite topic. And your consultation notes we'll talk about in a few minutes. We've got some notes on different foods that help with stress. And then we've got diet tips and exercise notes, all of which can be very important for dealing with stress. So when people think about stress, they often just think about the emotional side of things, like interactions with people, with family, with coworkers, bosses, whatever, that are stressful. And that is one kind of stress, but it's not the only kind of stress. There are actually 4 types of stress. There's emotional, physical, chemical, and thermal. We've just been through some thermal stress here the last week or two. Really, really hot weather. And before that, we were having, it's really hot, and now it's 30 degrees cooler, and now it's 30 degrees warmer. This back and forth, that's even harder on us than if it just stayed hot all the time or stayed cold all the time. We've had a real big year for that fluctuating temperature, which is a very big stress. Physical stress can be things like overworking, not getting enough sleep, having misalignment, having muscles that aren't working is a physical stress. Having misalignments is a physical stress. Chemical stress can include things like having too much caffeine, eating too much sugar, skipping meals, eating foods that are high in toxins, like trans fats, that sort of thing. Lots of preservatives, things like that. Those are all chemical stresses. And they all add up together. It isn't like emotional stress are apples, and physical stress is oranges, and chemical stress is grapes, and thermal stress is kiwi fruit. It all adds up together. They're all apples. And you don't have to have a whole bunch of any one. If you have enough of all of them together, you start getting to the point beyond which your body cannot handle it. A little bit of stress is okay because it kind of challenges us, makes us stronger. But we're talking today about cumulative stress, or accumulated stress that keeps building and building and building, and we never quite resolve it, and it gets to the point where eventually hit the magic stress number, our body starts to fall apart on us. So it's going to have all kinds of problems. Like what? Like accelerated aging. As a baby boomer, this is not my favorite thing to have. Accelerated. Nobody really. Well, if you're, I think nobody here is young enough they would want to have accelerated aging. When I was a kid, we kind of wanted to accelerate age, this is often due to hormone imbalance, especially cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone that creates all kinds of problems, causing increased tissue breakdown, It also decreases. So cortisol is a hormone meant to break down body tissue and make sugar out of it. Or when we're in a situation where there's a bear, we got to run away from the bear or something like that. So it helps us to supercharge and get away from that bear. But if there's no bear, if it's happening every day we walk into work, or every day that we go to school, or every day that we interact with a family member who's we're not getting along with, there's no bear, but we're still making this hormone that breaks down body tissue. And so it breaks things down and slows down tissue repair. And it also, when you're making too much cortisol, you don't make other hormones. Cortisol is made in the adrenal glands, along with a bunch of other hormones, including DHEA. DHEA is a bodybuilding hormone. That's great, unless you have too much cortisol, because too much cortisol will knock out your DHEA production. It'll also knock out your estrogen production and your testosterone production. So it's a cause of low T that we've heard about, which we talk about those commercials. They would talk about with low T, take this low testosterone, take this hormone, but don't let your kids or your wife anywhere around you when you're taking it, because horrible things can happen to them. And then a few months later, there's all these lawyer companies having commercials about have you had problems from this testosterone replacement? Then please give us a call. We'll be happy to represent you. So once again, our approach is to try to get you making your own hormones, your own estrogen, your own testosterone. And one of the things we need to do there is decrease stress, decrease the cortisol production, or balance it out so it's not creating all these other problems. Also, as cortisol increases, insulin increases. As insulin increases, you start to get more insulin resistance, and that goes into what we all know as type 2 diabetes. So in addition to other problems, the high cortisol, the hormone imbalances cause poor sleep and increased tissue breakdown and decreased healing. So basically, accelerated aging has to do with increased tissue breakdown, decreased tissue healing. That's the formula for increased aging process. You have immune system suppression. Adrenal hormones like cortisol and cortisone are given to people after they have like a heart replacement or an organ replacement, to knock out the immune system so it doesn't attack and cause you to reject the organ, which is great in that situation. But if you have these adrenal hormones that are high, it knocks out your immune system. So you could be like I was back in my 20s. You catch everything. Also, it's a big cause of inflammation. It causes cardiovascular inflammation, which results in arterial plaquing and high blood pressure. Can create arthritis. The inflammatory process can cause arthritis. Lots of other things. I have a whole talk just on inflammation. They call it the silent killer. It creates all kinds of problems. Almost everything we don't like about getting older has an inflammatory component to it. As I said, it can create metabolic syndrome. It can also create, it's really weird, it can create hypoglycemia and also type 2 diabetes, because it just really throws off the insulin production, insulin reaction in the body. Weight gain, especially the spare tire. That's classic with high cortisol, the spare tire type of weight gain. It also creates, it's really interesting, it'll damage the hippocampus, which is a part of the brain that's responsible for memory and also appetite control. One of the key signs of hippocampus damage from high cortisol is that you have a full meal and you're still hungry. Not like, I'm kind of munchy. You're like hungry still. I've had this myself, of course. I've eaten so much my stomach hurts. I'm still starving. And I say, okay, my stomach hurts. I can't really be hungry. But you have to logic yourself out of it because you still are really, really hungry, because your appetite control center isn't working in the hippocampus. Also, but just by the way, hippocampus is also involved with helping with sleep and also anti-anxiety. So if the hippocampus is damaged from high cortisol levels, not only do you have poor appetite control, you may have poor memory problems, you have trouble sleeping, you may have more problems with anxiety as a result too. Of course, the anxiety can also be from blood sugar imbalances as well. Digestive problems, ulcers. Ulcers are like the classic thing we know about from stress, right? but the whole digestive system gets thrown off key when stress is high. Mental problems. Well, I mentioned poor memory because it became as damaged. Poor concentration, very, very common with too much stress. Learning problems. Any people that come with learning problems, we look at handling the different levels of stress that they have in their life. So this sounds pretty bad. What do we do about it? Well, a lot of it has to do with lifestyle. Our bodies like regular stuff. They like us to eat at the same time every day. They like us to go to bed at the same time every day. They like us to get up at the same time every day, or close to it anyway. Sometimes people find that they can push through the week, and the weekend they fall apart. And a lot of times because of the weekend they break their routine, and they sleep in too late. They eat their meals at different times, things like that. It causes extra. It's that extra stress the body can't handle after that big week of pushing. So regular habits are good for reducing stress. Also exercise, and I gave you some notes on aerobic exercise. There's a way to exercise smarter rather than harder, and it has all to do with monitoring your heart rate and seeing where that heart rate is. And the paper I gave you tells you how to calculate that, where you should be for your age and your level of exercise and your level of health. And aerobic exercise has a big stress reducing ability, and there's been tons of research on that. In fact, there's been a lot of research showing that people with depression, that regular aerobic exercise is as useful as medication. Diet's very important. Avoid caffeine, especially if you're caffeine is the sort of thing that it has pluses and minuses to it. But if your adrenals are worn down from stress, you really shouldn't be having caffeine, because caffeine is like an adrenal whip. And yes, you will get more energy, but it's like whipping a tired horse. And the horse will work harder, but then the horse is more tired than ever. And some people say, I feel better, I get more energy from drinking coffee. Some people, though, say, yeah, I drink coffee, it doesn't have any effect on me. That's like you whip the horse says, fine, whip me, I got nothing, Those people who caffeine doesn't help at all, especially if it used to help them, they're in worse trouble. Some people say, oh, I can drink coffee and go right to sleep afterwards. That coffee helps me sleep. That's like you whip the horse falls down. You just totally push it over the edge. Those people that can go to sleep right after drinking coffee are in big trouble. They're going to take a long time to build their adrenals back up. So be moderate. If you're going to drink caffeine, be moderate about it, and remind yourself that sometimes when you're the most wiped out, that's when you need it. That's when it's going to cause the most problems for you. If you cannot get going in the morning without coffee, it probably means you're not getting enough sleep. And our country is famous for being sleep deprived. And one of the reasons we do that is we drink energy drinks that whip the horse hard. And by doing that and drinking coffee, things like that, we can get by with less sleep, we think. And we can do it for a while, but eventually it catches up with us. The horse gets tireder and tireder and eventually falls down. The horse falls down, that's when they probably come to see me, but I wish they would come when the horse was not quite that bad. Low glycemic index diet. So avoiding this is sort of like a paleo diet, if you're familiar with the paleo diet, low carbohydrate diet. Avoiding starches, and especially sugars. We have a big problem with sugar in this country. It's one reason why we have a health crisis in this country. It's because the overconsumption of sugar. It's a big reason why we don't call it type 2 diabetes adult onset diabetes anymore, because kids are getting it. That's awful. Type 2 diabetes is almost always completely lifestyle driven, but our kids are getting it now because they're not exercising, they eat too much sugar, and we've got a big problem with it because of that. So low glycemic index diet, low sugar and starch. And starches, we're talking, like grains and potatoes and things like that. Adequate protein. And by the way, it's, in general, a piece of protein, high protein food like meat or cheese or tofu or something like that, about the size of thickness of the palm of your hand 3 times a day is about what we're talking about. A lot of people don't get anywhere near that, especially for breakfast. Some people eat way too much. You go to the restaurant, they'll give you a 12-ounce steak. That's like way too much, but we want to have a nice balance with a lot of things. good, moderate, good quality fat. Fat is not bad for you. Fat doesn't make you fat unless you're just gorging on it. Good quality fat will actually help trigger fat burning when you eat in moderation. So good quality fat are things like olive oil, avocado oil are two good. Coconut oil is really good. And really the fat that you get from beef is not necessarily bad if it is grass-fed, because grass-fed you've got a type of fat in there that actually is a type of omega-3 fat. But grain-fed, you've got arachidonic acid, which is pro-inflammatory. Okay, so look at the mechanics of that. Don't skip meals. When you skip meals, your adrenals have to kick in to bring blood sugar up. What did I say about the bear earlier? How the adrenals bring blood sugar up? By making cortisol. So if you skip a meal, your blood sugar drops, your body's likely to make more cortisol and have all those negative effects from cortisol I talked about earlier. So don't skip meals. There's a lot of talk about intermittent fasting. And there can be some benefits there if your adrenals are in good shape, if your fat burning metabolism is in good shape. If you're kind of wiped out, intermittent fasting I don't think is a very good idea. Adequate sleep. What is adequate sleep? It's at least 7 hours a night. Pretty much everybody needs at least that much. I need a little bit more. 7.5 hours is pretty good for me. And 8 hours I like a little bit better, but 7.5 hours does great for me. Less than 7 hours, I can feel it. And I don't make up for it with caffeine or other things. So if you feel like you have to use caffeine, once again, you're probably not getting enough sleep, and that's really going to catch up with you big time. Many people need 8 to 9 hours. Just depends on the person. Then there's some anti-stress things you can do for yourself, like yoga or Tai Chi. Karen and I are and Nadine are all Tai Chi players for many, many years. Very good anti-stress stuff. Progressive relaxation techniques, which is actually part of yoga. I used to be a yoga teacher back in Detroit, like I said. Meditation. The breathing stress nobody knows. There's actually a type of meditation. So those can be very helpful. And we're also going to talk about Heartmath today. I don't have this. I thought I had Heartmath down here. Okay, write that in there. Heartmath. Heartmath is a great technique which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. It'll be very helpful to you. And there's some things that I can do to help you too, directly. We can check to see if your adrenals are in overdrive all the time, like mini fight or flight the whole time. Some people are. People that can't get to sleep, for instance, so their mind keeps chattering. Their adrenals are usually in overdrive. Need to be reset. And you're producing lots of cortisol and all those bad things we talked about, extra cortisol. We can look at hormone balancing. And that's looking at DHEA levels, it's looking at cortisol levels, it's looking at also things like testosterone, estrogen, thyroid hormones, things like that. We have ways of doing muscle testing, as well as the fact that I have a very thorough lab availability. I can do all any kind of blood test you can think of practically, urine analysis, and also saliva testing for hormones to get information that way too. We can give nutritional support that helps with stress. We give herbal support. There's a number of herbs like ginseng or I've got it right over here. What is it? Yes, ashwagandha, which are called adaptogens. They help your body adapt to stress. We have homeopathic remedies that help with stress too. And we can use the neuroemotional technique to clear the body, to clear out those old emotional stresses we keep reacting to, even though we're not aware we're doing that. We can look at clearing the body's memory. Every time you get an injury, there's a potential for the body to remember that every time you have a surgery, the body will often react to that surgery or that injury for decades sometimes. You have a low level of stress from your body thinks, oh, I'm injured, at a low level, and it can cause circulation problems. It can cause the area that you injured to keep from healing completely. It'll heal like 90%, but not all the way. And it's a major stressor for the body. And we also look at allergies. We can check for allergies are a big stressor. Histamine is an incredibly inflammatory chemical, and it's a big chemical stressor for the body. So these are some things we can do. We can check to see if these are problems that we can work on clearing the allergies out. We can work on we can find those old injury areas that are causing problems and reset them so that the body stops reacting to them, and we can reprogram the emotional aspects of things too. Okay, so what we're going to do today is I think we're going to teach the Heartmath technique, or one aspect of the Heartmath technique. Heartmath has been around for a long time, since the 70s. They've done lots and lots of research, and if you want more information, go to heartmath.org or heartmath.com. They have two different websites, and it's just fascinating what they're doing. But I'm going to teach you, and they found that, and you can also go to my website, and I did a video on Heartmath where I go into a little more detail about how it works. But it's fascinating. They discovered in how the heart is more than just a pump for blood. The heart has its own mini brain, and the heart takes direction from the brain, but also gives direction to the brain. You can actually help reprogram the brain by getting the heart working properly. So it's really interesting stuff. Like I said, there's more information on my video. But what we're going to do now is a technique called the freeze frame technique, where what we're going to do is take something that bothers us. And if you don't have anything that bothers you, you can just skip the first part of this and just go to the second part of it. But what we're going to do, if you have something that bothers you, just think about that for a minute. So if something's really gnawing at you, then you just can't let go of it. And what we're going to do is get kind of comfortable there. And we're going to imagine it's a movie that you're watching of this thing that's bothering you. Now, do a freeze frame, like they just stop the movie, okay? And just look at this, freeze that picture, okay? And just keep it there. And now, focus on your heart. And imagine you're breathing through your heart. Breathing through the heart. And you have that freeze frame off to the side. It's kind of there, but you're not really focusing on it. You're focusing on the heart now. Imagine the air is coming in through your heart, and try to keep your breath really regular, like very circular. As soon as you breathe in all the way, immediately breathe out of the way. As soon as you breathe out of the way, immediately breathe in all the way. So. Focusing on the heart as you breathe. Now, as you breathe and focus on the heart, think of something that you really appreciate in your life. Something that gives you joy. Something that's just wonderful that you really, it could be a family member, could be God, it could be an event that's just really uplifting, but something you really appreciate, and think about that and focus on that feeling of appreciation and focus that feeling of appreciation on the heart as you breathe into the heart and out through the heart. Ordinarily, you do this for 5 or 10 minutes, maybe longer if you had something that's really bothering you. And at that time, one thing you can do also at the end is sort of ask your heart, what would be a better solution to this problem than what I've been doing already with this? What would be a better way of looking at it? What would be a better way of handling it? And just take another minute or two to see what comes up. And what you could come up with some sort of an intuitive, you may come a really logical, I could just do this. Something you couldn't think of before because you're so blinded by the stress of the situation. Or maybe what's going to happen is you get like this little intuitive feel for something that'll develop over the next day or two. But the heart has a certain wisdom to it that can help you solve, not only will help you with your stress, but will help you solve problems, can give you ideas, give you a new angle on things.